timetable more tightly so that it gets spent the way it's supposed to be spent for.
In the sort of next phase of the settlement is significantly smaller institutions, and I would not expect or count on new resources of the size that we're talking about with $75 million. So let's just be clear, this is the best shot, and this is not about waiting for the next thing or for the future. We've got to make sure that this money is used correctly. I think that can help, but it's nowhere near the same scale that we're talking about with the 5 largest lenders. Frankly, they're much larger. Their practices, frankly, were also worse. So I would not be expecting that. The other thing I would say is, look, this, I used to joke about the fact that, I worked for all 3 parties and that was just under 1 mayor in New York City. One of the things that was remarkable out of the settlement, we got 24 Republican AGs, 25 Democratic AGs to sign on. And one of the ways that we made that work was there was some flexibility in what could be done with the hard dollars that came to states. There was always the expectation that some amount, and typically, I won't go bore you with the details, typically about 10% is being used by almost all states as a penalty, which kind of automatically goes into the general fund. But clearly the intention of this, and what the vast majority of AGs and governors are doing is what the settlement intended. But I don't think, both because the size of the next phase of it, and also because of the nature of getting to an agreement with, 49 AGs, probably half of which are running for governor at the same time, the nature of that kind of negotiation, I don't think you would be able to get something where it's locked in legally. Again, 90% of what we did there, everything but this hard dollar cash portion that goes to states was locked in terms of the types of uses, not geography, as I said earlier. But that's so. Short answer, bottom line is, I wouldn't spend your time focusing on what's next. I'd focus on the here and now and make sure that the $75 million is used for the right purpose.
Okay, got it. So here's a question about the home program. Over the last 2 budgets, the home program has been deeply cut. A few highly publicized problems have done incredible damage to what is really an excellent funding program. We understand the current proposal is for flat funding, which is 30% below previous levels. What can we do to help preserve and restore this wonderful program to its earlier funding level?
Yeah, so I was the largest home recipient in the country in New York City. Nobody knows better than me what a good program it is and how powerful it is. And don't get me started on this Washington Post series that was just enormously unfair about the home program. The bottom line is, there was a point where I thought we were at risk of losing the program altogether. We did preserve it, and there was an outpouring from all of you in this room, from folks around the country that defended it. Obviously, it got cut. The block grants have been cut more broadly because of the nature of HUD's budget. And just the quick story on that, 83% of our budget goes to just renew existing families. So in a world where 1% inflation happens in those programs, and you're in a level funding environment, we have to cut everything else by 5% just to stay even. So that's the sort of vicious math of the HUD budget. And in a time when they're trying to cut, it gets worse. And so we've prioritized, and I think it's the right priority, to make sure that we fully fund Section 8, the vouchers, public housing, not to cut any families off, but that makes for a very tough environment for the block grants. The big opportunity this year, because of the way that we've improved management at the Federal Housing Administration, because increasing our premiums for FHA loans. We have $1.8 billion of new money, of receipts, as we call them in budget speak, that CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, the official scorekeeper for Congress, put into the mix, said that we would earn in FHA. That was above and beyond what the president put in his budget. So the bottom line is there's $1.8 billion of extra funding if we can keep it in the programs. The Senate did that. They kept about $1.4 billion in the HUD budget. And that allowed them to make a bunch of good decisions in our budget. The House moved just last week, did not include any of that $1.8 billion in the HUD budget. So the first thing is we've got to keep that money in the HUD budget. $1.8 billion additional FHA receipts, you all should be fighting for it, and fighting for it now. This isn't like wait till, even if the budget gets done later in the year, we need to be fighting for that now. And you need to let your priorities be known about where to put it. Now the good news here is the House actually, the Senate level funded, as you said, the House actually added $200 million to the home program. So there is an increase there up to $1.2 billion. It's still not up to where it should be, where it was, but if we could think about if we can get an extra 1.4, 1.8 billion into the HUD budget above the House level, we have the potential to go even higher on the block grant. So that's really, in terms of specific strategy, that's what you all need.